kicking goal. So it's a big matchup.
Already pushes Chuffs off the ball. Jonathan Brown doing a bit of it. We are underway with a perfect bounce here at the Gabba. This round 11 clash, and the man you mentioned, Paul Roos, Shaw gets, well, not a first possession because he was wrapped up. Reece Shaw will get another ball up.
Tell you, the other one that won't miss Brett Kirk is Simon Black, because they would normally be wearing each other jumper for jumper.
Simon Black is still looking over the shoulder to see where Kirky is.
He used to follow into the car park, didn't he? Hanbury dances his way through a little bit of traffic, but dances backwards. And Shaw takes the mark, so gets a possession early on Power, who you saw try and wrap him up. Squeezes it to centre half forward. McGlynn, been in good form. To his goal kicking best again, and he shorts it to Trent Dennis-Lane, who back into the team for his first game of the season this week.
And Ruzi, we saw a little bit of Trent Dennis-Lane last year, and he looked like a very good leading forward. Where's he been this season?
He had an injury pre-season, and he's one of those guys that if he misses 4 or 5 weeks, it takes a while to get back into form. So look, he's kicked 7 and 6 the last 2 weeks for the second.
You'd put him down for this one, wouldn't you?
He's generally a pretty good kick.
He's one of the best kicks in the league if you go on just his goal and behind stats. He sprays that a little on cue, and it might be a nervous-ish start for Trent Dennis-Lane. 3 goals against the Brisbane Lions when these two teams last met, which wasn't all that long ago, round 22 here at the Gabba last year when Sydney demolished them heading into the finals by 38 points.
He's a dangerous player, Trent, because he can mark it, and he's also a good crummer, and he can turn him around. He's really, really smart.
Hanley sits that on Patfull's head. Leuenberger mops that up nicely. Simon Black turns it over. O'Keefe, Marty Matner, free kick, play on downfield. McVeigh squeezes it to Trent Dennis-Lane. Another possession. Bird bangs it to full forward. Lewis Roberts-Thompson down there, so LRT from TDL. Goods sidesteps. Gonna have this dance. The first goal to Adam Goods.
And that's going to be a difficult one for the Brisbane Lions. As we know, Adam Goods loves playing against the Lions and has been successful over the last half a dozen years. But if he's up in the midfield and turns his opponent around and pushes back towards the goal square, and this is a good contest by Lewis Roberts-Thompson to get the ball to at least ground or nullify Daniel Merritt in the air. And that's a nice bit of work on the left foot from Goodsy. Good start for the Sydney Swans.
I think it was Joel Patfull on Goodsy then, but Goodsy came up in the midfield and really lost his opponent there, and then running back in free, pretty much with no one on him as he went inside 50 then.
Cardinal Sin from Joel Patfull a couple of years ago said that Adam Goods is the toughest player in the competition to play on. So he kind of guaranteed that every time it was going to be Adam Goods that would hope that he'd play on him again. Clark from 50 sprays that a little. In fact, sprays it a lot out of play. You're better off saying your toughest opponent is some guy who's just retired, aren't you?
That's right. That's exactly right.
Back into play. Little flick down from Clark. Back of the pack. Banfield couldn't trap it. Johnson does. Vay. O'Keefe, in fact, it was to Richards. And now a race on. Collier collects. Bumped out by Shaw. Ball in.
I'm just wondering with Lewis Roberts-Thompson, Lynchy be there just to get Merritt back in the goal square, because Merritt's been terrific at affecting a lot of contests.
He does. He's been reading the ball very well as well. So I was sure it would be pretty much a negating role from LRT at full forward, which is unusual, but just to keep Daniel Merritt out of that corridor, and he can set up a lot of forward 50 entries from a good defensive spoil, and the Crummers like Adcock and Hanley can pick the ball up.
Lewis Roberts-Thompson back into play. Leuenberger caught after taking it out of the air. Didn't get a legal possession away, and that in our game is holding the ball if you take it out of the ruck. That's the rule. Matner back to his running and long kicking best last week. 17 kicks last week, way above his season average. It's that inside 50, but it's not out.
Deliberate.
Adcock will argue the point. They won't be reversing it.
Hadn't had a lot of luck in the last few weeks, the defensive half of the Brisbane Lions. Daniel Merritt's been done on a few occasions for running the ball over, but Adcock on that occasion just a little bit straight towards the line with a knock.
Lewis Roberts-Thompson, who's been spending a lot of time forward. Game number 4 for the season. 2 goals, 2 so far this year.
Has he got this one, or is he?
It'd be fair to say he's not super confident as he's lining up, but he may slot it.
It's game 137, and that was for goal number 17, so he hasn't kicked a lot of them.
Look, he's a really good sub, really good at second ruckman, Lewis Roberts-Thompson, as we see the deliberate here. I mean, we know what he was doing, but it's one of those sort of 50-50s, I guess, Lynchy.
Yep.
Collier pokes it to Polkinghorne, held up. In fact, he takes on Reid and wins with a shrug. Richards in the spot, position A.
There's a lack of experience from young Bryce Retzlaff on that occasion. Allowed Ted Richards to get forward.
Gee, poor drop from Austin. They were away on the turnover, and he gives it back. Seaby to McGlynn to half forward, and that's a good grab to Stiller. To the outer side he heads. Banfield, and he pumps it. Jonathan Brown won't get there. Clark does! Well, he's been the hot man. He was outstanding last week, arguably his best game for the Brisbane Lions, and he dragged them over the line in a game in which Jonathan Brown failed to kick a goal.
Well, and part of the reason why he was so good last week was he wasn't just stuck in the forward 50. He was up around the ground, and that built his confidence. So he can go forward and take a contested mark like that because his confidence is so high.
24 possessions and 2 goals last week, and there's the perfect start for Mitch Clark.
Well, the 2 players we spoke about pre-game were Adam Goods, how dangerous he is when he pushes forward, and also Mitch Clark. And the fact that Jonathan Brown didn't have a massive impact as far as kicks and handballs are concerned last week, but it was more the fact that Mitch Clark wasn't given the best defender. So Jonathan Brown was drawing 1 and 2 defenders, allowed Mitch Clark to get the younger, more inexperienced player and take very good marks like that.
Just really interested in the matchup there, though. Looks like Johnson versus Clark. I was just noticing Teddy Richards, it was called Teddy Richards Retzlaff before.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to work out why Teddy wouldn't be on Clark and Johnson on Retzlaff.
Well, still appears to be Johnson on Clark.
Didn't you leave your old matchup sheet for John Longmire?
He did, and a big horse threw it out the door.
You're not happy about it, are you?
Look, maybe, I mean, Clark does get up and about, as we talked about. Johnson's a really good athlete. Teddy's probably more that stay-at-home defender, so that's probably the reason.
Goods takes them on again with style. Hanbury goes short. Trent Dennis-Lane over his head. Lewis Roberts-Thompson snaps. He's a natural forward.
See, it looks like he's playing a really disciplined role. Yeah. You're just watching him there. He just doesn't want to leave the goal square. And as you can see the ball coming in, really good play. Goodsy's up and about early in this game. He directs traffic there a bit as well. Not a great kick from Hanbury going to Trent Dennis-Lane. But you can see here, Louis just didn't want to leave the goal square. And it's interesting. Merritt is a little bit confused as to how to play his role at the moment.
Yeah, good goal from Lewis Roberts-Thompson, and so this is a nice play from Adam Goods up the field. But yeah, Daniel Merritt would be a little disappointed with that one. He was turned very easily by LRT and ended up kicking quite an easy goal from 3 or 4 metres out. So a good start from the Swans tactically.
Another monster ball up. Ruckman had to wait a while. Jude Bolton to Goods, who won't get there for the jump. Reid went for it, now gives to Goods, who stayed down. McGlynn, sharpshooter, kicks around the body, and Merritt playing in front, couldn't take the mark. Trent Dennis-Lane's been dangerous early. Picked up, Handley, couldn't break free. Trent Dennis-Lane again to Kennedy. He snaps a little wide.
He certainly is, Dwayne. He's certainly giving John Longmire everything that he would have hoped for at the moment. Some ground level stuff, leading, marking. So it's been a really good start from Trent Dennis-Lane.
He's not a big man for someone that leads so well and takes a good overhead mark, but he's one of those, appears to be a third tall forward, but a natural leading forward. Yeah,
he is. He's a really smart kid. I mean, he's not big. There's not much of him, so you really don't want him to be your P, and I think that's the role that Lewis Roberts-Thompson's playing at the moment, is a really good role for both he and Trent.
Just getting their hands on the ball at the moment, the Swans, and their better players are too. Goods, Bolton, these sort of players. Hanbury's been good early as well, so it's a good start by the Swans.
And a concern, they're 5 shots to 1 inside 56-2.
That was hard, but Jude Bolton doesn't mind it hard. O'Keefe, full forward. Spoil comes from Trent Dennis-Lane this time, who got a hand on it to knock it down. Kennedy wrapped up by Hanley. In fact, gang tackled Hanley and Redden. Ball up. Good spot for a ball up for the Swans, though.
35 possessions to 14 too, Lynch. Yeah. So they are dominating the game at the moment.
14-4 contested possessions in favour of Sydney as well.
Rich trying to strip it. O'Keefe got his hands free but gave it up. Austin gives it back again. Johnson, he hacks it forward, goes toward goal. It bounces through. And Alex Johnson kicks his first goal in AFL footy.
Well, Ruzi, you said that was a good move, getting Johnson onto Mitch Clark, and he squared it up by kicking a nice little goal around the corner, and that was a nice bit of work. But as you said, Dwayne, it's a very dangerous position for a defensive stoppage for the Brisbane Lions, because you're far enough out from goal where if you've got enough pressure on the ball carrier, as the Brisbane Lions did on that occasion, you can generate a shot at goal for the forward team, and on this occasion it was Johnson.
Yeah, I think I mentioned before about that matchup with Johnson versus Clark. Preferred option, deep goal square, would be certainly Teddy, but as you can see, Clark does come right up the ground, and Alex Johnson followed him up there. So I think that's the reason why John Longmire's gone with that matchup. He's a really athletic kid, and Mitch Clark is pushing right up the ground at the moment.
Lions under siege again here. Clark gone into the middle, can't break free. He tried to shrug a tackle initially. Gets away with it.
Boys, I just noticed that Roberts Thompson's come off for a spell, just a rotation, but they put Dennis Lane deep in the full forward, which means basically Merritt's playing on Dennis Lane in the goal square. So you're right, Ruse, he doesn't want him allow him to get up the ground at all.
O'Keefe, the clearance cut off by Stiller. Pokes it wide, Redden. Just get a few touches, maintain possession for a little while. Short, and he waited for that, and Malcheski came at it hard. To Jude Bolton inside 50, Merritt playing in front. And he's been in outstanding form too. Daniel Merritt, arguably his best game of his career last week. He's been in all-Australian form, has Daniel Merritt. It's a wobbly kick from Hanley that comes off. Just a poke pass in the end from Adcock, who has to go back and get it. Black, no one to handball to. Hanbury, and tapped out of play, and that's a win. From Polkinghorne will get a ball in.
He's paid deliberate.
Oh, you can't do that in that contest, surely.
No, that was a little bit... Oh, what's he done here? He's played it the wrong way, has he? I think he's played it the wrong way. It was... I don't know, he's played it...
But I don't think you can play it in that kind of contest for the ball.
Against Polkinghorne? Sure, yeah. It's very tough. They're onto that one.
Early numbers, 8-1 clearance count in favour of Sydney.
That's a key indicator that John Long might be very happy with.
Kennedy. So already rotation starting on the bench with Malcheski. They're both on already. Jetta, who was the super sub last week and helped turn the game, Lewis Jetta, starting on the field this week. Throws it up to the pocket in hope and killed over the boundary. And if you're new to the game, that's just as deliberate as the others, but you're allowed to do that in a marking contest.
That's what the crowd are saying.
That's right, exactly.
And that's probably the worst result for the Swans there, because those kicks, I mean, Jets there really needs to hit a target. That's what you're setting up for. You're not setting up for a bomb to Benny McGlynn.
Kennedy quick. McVeigh over the top. O'Keefe from the pocket, kickable by his standards, and Merritt, not quite a clever punch. Tried to rush it through. It's still alive. Didn't hit the post. It bounced off a toe. Still there. Knocked down. Kennedy couldn't trap it. Thrown out of the area almost by Stiller. Adcock knocks it down. Bird steals it back again. Gives it to Jetta. Pumps it towards goal. Tried to bounce it over Merritt. Still in the field of play. Didn't drag it through. Sends it outside 50. Marking contest, Jonathan Brown. And he took his player out. It'll be a free. And it's going to go to the Sydney Swans.
This is a near post hit by...
Well, it did hit the post.
Oh, yeah.
Should have been a behind. Grundy to Goods. Rises. Off hands, Jude Bolton. Taps it. Not to his advantage, but to Reed's advantage. Bird tried likewise. Hanley to the boundary. Now, that won't be called deliberate. Well, we hope not.
Listen to the crowd. They know their footy up here, Lynchy.
Oh, they're all over it now, Pickers. The central umpire was looking for a bit of confirmation from the umpire down the field before he gave his decision.
There's some spice in this one early. Lewis Roberts-Thompson back on, rucking against Clark. To Kennedy. McVeigh. Good spot to kick to. Hot spot. Merritt overkilled it. Reed ran over it, and Merritt goes to mop up that little mess. He dives on it, though. He's in trouble. Ball comes out in the McGlynn direction, knocked away from him. Jetta to Bird. Some space to use. Long drop punt, slightly across the face.
The other interesting matchup, Lynchy, we talked about Simon Black before the game. Yep. And this is what Merritt does really, really well, and the Swans are really trying to take him back with Reed now that Lewis Roberts-Thompson's gone the ruck. But Black versus McVeigh, so McVeigh's the one running around with Simon Black.
Good pluck from Clark. And Pierce Hanley's kick.
That was another very good mark from Mitch Clark. Vertical jump and strong hands.
22 plays 6. Both teams coming into this in form. Brisbane Lions have won their past 2. Sydney's won 2 of their past 3. To Jonathan Brown. By the way, they've won both their games since Jonathan Brown's been back.
The Swans won't mind that, Lynchy. Jonathan Brown marking the ball about 80 metres out, but it also gets Brown in the game too. I mean, you can't spend your whole day just near the goal square.
Towards attacking 50. Touch play on was a call. Tried to barrel his way through there, O'Keefe. McVeigh helps him out. In fact, he handed that to McVeigh. Umpire gives them an enormous amount of time, and he comes out to Black, pokes it to half forward. McGlynn getting back. Very vocal crowd at the Gabba.
Been really effective early, McGlynn. He's a terrific half forward. The way the game's played today, he's got great capacity to get up the ground and get back into the forward line as well.
That was dangerous. Nick Malcheski, third game back from a knee restring. Gets to his feet and we'll get a ball up. Clark with the flick down, but again O'Keefe steals to Hanbury. Puts it up. Reed might go for the big jump. He does. Got hands to it. Couldn't mark it. Green. 2 from 2 for Green. He's been in for the 2 wins. Only 2 games of his career, so he's been the lucky charm. Handball up from Bird. Little 1-2 works well with Seaby. And now in the McGlynn direction. Lewis Roberts-Thompson there with him. Back of the pack. Danger here. LRT might go off the deck. Great smother, Merritt. He read his mind. McGlynn picked their pocket, and from the pocket picks out Reed. Can't mark. Off hands. O'Keefe dumped. Goods. They've got numbers. McVeigh. He snaps. That's gold. Pressure footy. They reap the reward.
Once again, well done by the Sydney Swans, and Daniel Merritt, as you said, the ball got over the back, which they wouldn't be too happy about as a defensive unit, but that's a fantastic spoil on LRT as he was about to tow it back into the goals. But that was a dangerous kick, put the defence of the Brisbane Lions under enormous pressure, and McVeigh, we've seen him do that a number of times throughout his career. It's a very handy goal, 4-4 to 1 straight goal, so a handy lead for the Swans early in the game.
I think also one thing Black won't be used to is having an offensive player on him against the Sydney Swans. We've already seen McVeigh up to 7 possessions and 1 goal. So he's held Black to 3. Kirky's normally right inside his jumper, whereas McVeigh will be a bit more offensive.
Not only that, Ruzy, and you look at the other players, Jonathan Brown just the 1 possession. Luke Powell yet to touch it. Neither has Daniel Rich.
O'Keefe, good mark. And within range to full forward. It might carry the pack. It does! They've kicked 5.
To follow on from your comments, Pickers, some of the stars for the Brisbane Lions haven't got into the game. O'Keefe has 10 now and the 1 goal. McVeigh 7, Kennedy 5, Hanbury 5. So some of the big names for the Sydney Swans are getting their hands on the ball, and that's a fantastic grab from Ryan O'Keefe, and just bolster around on the left foot. Once again, there's the matchup, LRT and Daniel Merritt deep. And Big Rog a bit disappointed he didn't get a fist on that one.
I'll tell you who will be doing cartwheels in the Sydney Swans coaches box is Mark Stone, their midfield coach.
He'll be claiming that one.
12 to 1 clearances.
That's a bashing in anyone's language.
No cartwheels there from Adrian Fletcher and Michael Voss, who are standing side by side in the Lions dugout. They need to stop the bleeding here and stop it quickly. O'Keefe trapped, no free. That's a tunnel ball effort from Black through his legs. Jetta slips it to Matner, who tried to throw a boot at it and missed the ball completely. Hanbury, they've got players everywhere. Reid through his hands. Merritt caught as he was grabbing it. Fantastic tackle. Almost appeared to drop that. Kennedy kicks toward goal. It's bouncing back. It's bouncing dangerously. Doesn't bounce back enough.
Well, 10 shots to 1 inside 50s, 13 to 2. So here's Marty Matten. This reminds me of you, Roosie, at Lakeside Oval when it got a bit blustery.
Yeah, a little bit windy down Lakeside every now and then. Just got it on the slipper. Is that a count? Is that a kick or not? Is that an ineffective or an effective kick?
I reckon the ineffective off the knee, once it touched the toe, was an effective.
Well,
so
it was an assist.
Two stats.
He assisted in that shot at goal. It was a score assist. Half back. Lions in a spot of bother here, and it'll be a Swans ball again.
In all seriousness, 13 to 1 clearances. I mean, that's just, as you mentioned, Lindsay, a smashing. I mean, that's something that you would think that the Lions would be working feverishly in the box at the moment, trying to work out why are we getting beaten 13 to 1.
And what do you do from a coaching point of view? Is it just go back to get our best players in the middle and just try to slow things down?
Absolutely. And I'd be getting Simon Black off the ground and have a chat to him directly. I mean, Bossy's over there. I'd be having a chat to him directly. He's the leader in that group. He needs to arrest that situation.
And they're actually, Brisbane are winning the hitouts 12-4. So their setups aren't right.
Goods after Malcheski's outstanding mark finds Reid. It's getting worse by the minute.
It is, because Goods is a handful up forward, and this young kid, Reid, from memory, did he play his first game here last year, Roosie? And I think he looked very impressive. Haven't seen a lot of him, but
he did really, and he was a bit stiff to miss out in the final of next week. He was really lively. You can see he's a very athletic kid, and he played a really good debut game here.
And you dropped him?
No, the other blokes dropped him, mate. I want him in.
5-7 this year, so he's been a bit iffy at goal, and he remains iffy. 5 goals, 8. But he's still young. Both these teams, for the record, have 2 teenagers in their 22 and 2 250-plus game players in their 22. So very similar lineups for these 2 teams tonight in terms of experience. Play on. Black gives it up to Redden. Smother. Look out. Johnson. Jude Bolton. They've got 3 men on the run back. Bird. Corral. Sidestep was nice. Now Reid again. It'll be Reid's ball or Jetta's ball. He was dumped after.
Yeah, Mitch Clark just a little bit after the disposal, and that's disappointing. But something has to, I mean, they've got to slow the tempo of the game down somehow, but it's got to start with getting the hands on the ball. It's just a blowout, 86-34. That's those numbers are unheard of in the first term.
Speaking of iffy at goal, over to you, Lewis Jetta. He's kicked 3 goals, 5 this year. Tough angle, and that's across the face, well and truly. In fact, no Swans waiting for an errant kick from Jetta.
You know what? All the Sydney Swans players were actually in the zone already and expecting that.
Expecting a behind from him.
Well, essentially, they were thinking it was going to be a score anyway. Probably not backing him in for a behind, but needed a ruckman to go with Leuenberger.
Wide ball, Jonathan Brown, 2 to beat. Can't beat them both. Grundy.
I'll tell you what, it's a 30-point game, but it should be worse when you look at the stats. You've mentioned before, Al, 37 possessions. What have we got? 16 to 2 inside 50s. Clearances 13 to 1.
11 scoring shots to 1.
11 scoring shots to 1. So the Brisbane Lions are lucky to be 30 points behind.
Well, actually, I mean, for 5 minutes, essentially they haven't had their hands on the ball. So I think you've got to get to a stage. You've got to find a man and get control. There's a bit happening off the ball. McVeigh goes down.
Yeah, with Kennelly, and they're still into it,
Kennelly.
2 of them. We'll keep an eye on that. Kennelly and Sheldon it is.
You mentioned before, Al, they've got to get their hands on the ball and control the tempo. I don't think Brisbane have been a great side at doing that, just chipping the ball around over the years, have they? They really have kept their style up tempo. Now's the time when you've got to get hold of it and just chip it around, chip it around, chip it around.
Well, they are. They're a bit fire with fire sort of team that will run you off your legs once we get our hands on the ball. But I think now, just grab it and slow down.
McVeigh to the pocket. Reid, fantastic.
That's a really good mark under pressure.
And one of the reasons you end up with poor goal-kicking stats quite often is because if you have your shots from spots like these, it's almost impossible to kick them. Play on. That one went back to Matner, who dances around to 50. Can launch a long ball. Spectacular. 6 goals from 6 different goal kickers.
One of the disappointing things from that aspect, obviously, I mean, in that occasion, Mattner's taken the mark, but Banfield comes in. Now, you know that Mattner is a left footer. So give him his right foot, because he's not going to kick the ball from 50 metres. Just don't allow him to get around you onto the left foot. So, yep, he can go around you, but make him go right and go to the boundary line. So, once again, another error from the Brisbane Lions, and they've conceded another goal.
He actually already had Green on his right side too, Banfield.
Yeah.
So he already had a player covering his right, and Marty Mattner is a left footer, so that was really poor play from Banfield.
Tell you what, Adam Goods was just walking past me when he kicked that goal, and he's let go with the big Leighton Hewitt. Come on! So they're right on the job here, the Swans.
Absolutely. The Lions still haven't resorted to putting Jonathan Brown behind the ball. Green out of side. Shorts it to half forward, hoping for, not quite finding Jonathan Brown. He's still got 3 Swans to beat every time he goes near the ball. Jude Bolton, 26 minutes gone. It's a 36-point lead. Shaw short. Reid doesn't want to have the shot from there. Impossible angle. Good centering kick. Seaby turned around though and lost the ball in flight. Not the best option. Leuenberger.
I really like the way John Longmire and his coaching staff have made Merritt defend Lynchy. It's obviously clear. Now we've got Seaby, we've had Reid there, they've had Lewis Roberts-Thompson there, now they've got Seaby there. So they're really trying to get Merritt out of that corridor so he can't affect any other spoil.
Just to lock him down in the goal square. Contested possessions 47-19.
Redden and Power a little 1-2, and they turn it over to Bird. Inside 3 minutes to quarter time, which can't come quick enough for the Lions. Leuenberger needs to make some ground here. Does. Affects the spoil. Kennedy just pushed but got it out. McGlenn loves a goal. Shorts it unselfishly. Seaby, Merritt's fist wins. Adcock. Interesting situation here. Boundary line looming. Seaby did him a favour. Crowd wanted to deliver it. What about that?
And Jonathan Brown's only had the 1 disposal, and Retzlaff hasn't touched it.
Daughter shooting her ears there from Dad.
Might have been. Settle down, Dad. But Brown's will struggle because inside 50s are 2 for the Brisbane Lions. Ball's just not getting up there.
Adcock, that's out on the full from O'Keefe. Finally, the Lions catch a break.
Well, if you look at Patfull 0, Sheldon 0, Retzlaff 0, Rich 0, Buick 0. So the bloke that's playing sub has had as many possessions as 5 other blokes on the ground.
And O'Brien hasn't made a mistake yet. That's one
That's
positive.
right. You can't blame Jonathan Brown, as you said, Al.
No,
it's been in there 3 times.
The subs O'Brien and Everett, by the way. Leuenberger and Lewis Roberts-Thompson see it out.
I think Jonathan Brown just pushed up for that contest, now working very hard back towards centre-half forward.
Jesse O'Brien. Relaxed.
Just very relaxed and not anticipating getting on anytime soon.
Given the scoreline, he might be out there shortly. Kennedy. Trent Dennis-Lane's taken another one.
Well, Kennedy's up to 9 now. I just watched that last contest there, Al. Rich went one way, Kennedy went the other way. Around the stoppages, and what is it now? You've got clearances 14-3.
And so, I mean, players, midfielders do roll the dice at times, but when you're in this sort of discrepancy in the game, in all sorts of stats, that's not the time to roll the dice. And as we said before, he's a very good mark overhead for a man that's only slight in build. And Jed Adcock, I think it was, in that marking contest, he'd be disappointed with that one.
The sharpshooter back in, Trent Dennis-Lane. Outstanding year last year.
And we've fixed him, haven't we?
18 goals, 6 he had for his career coming into this game.
That's 13 to 1 scoring shots for a 37-point lead, but it could easily be 50 points or 60 points. So really, it's been a disastrous first quarter for the Lions.
Adcock found Merritt eventually, and again, Swans with numbers. Mattner.
Well, that's 3-on-1 against Sheldon, so not a good kick, not a good choice of kick either to kick to that contest, and that's probably about work rate. No Lions players getting over 50 metres from the ball carrier.
Ty Kennelly to Hanbury, who was bumped in the back and got the free for it. Adcock's having a nightmare.
He's been one of their best players this year, Adcock.
He has been, yeah, playing deep defence and up into the midfield as well.
Short to the pocket again. Hits the deck. Stiller mops it up. Polkinghorne. The half forward, another poor kick. Smith.
Well, surprisingly, the kicking efficiency for the Brisbane Lions is 63, Sydney Swans 61. But it's the timing of those turnovers that when you're coming off half-back trying to hit up at centre-half forward, that's when the Lions are actually turning the ball over at the moment.
Hard to believe, especially for that man, Michael Voss, as he got some work to do. Sydney Swans coming into this round 6th on the AFL ladder. They win tonight. They can overtake the Bombers and move up a spot, and they lead 6-7-43 to the Lions. One straight 6. But any team with Jonathan Brown and at home here, Jonathan Brown can wreak havoc. Second term underway. Leuenberger hard in the ruck. Rich, little knockdown. McGlynn quick off the square. And wins himself a free. It became a 5-on-4 after that ball up because McGlynn got in there so quickly. Shorts, Goods, got it. Just pops it to half forward, and Polkinghorne gets back, takes a saving mark.
That was well done. He knew where the ball was going to be directed and dropped off his direct opponent to jump into the corridor.
70-metre wide ball. Retzlaff pushed off it illegally. Deserves a free. And the crowd enjoying the fact they've been able to draw a free. Umpires tonight, Matthew Nichols, Chris Camelons and Robert Findlay for the record. Wide ball, Jonathan Brown, Ted Richards. Well, that looked a pretty good spoil to me, but obviously got into the back of Jonathan Brown after the punch.
For the game.
And to the pocket. Clark there, thumped away. Power, played for the free or dropped it, one of the two. And we'll get a ball in. Have another look at the Jonathan Brown free. Yeah, okay.
Just that left arm over the shoulder, I thought.
Simon Black gets it up. Rich threads his way through. Pumps it goalward. Misses. Interesting with Jonathan Brown that he elects to take a few of those marks on his chest rather than taking them out in front. We might get you two to just give us a bit of a masterclass on that, given that you've both played so many games as forwards and defenders. Alistair Lynch is both, but Rosie, you played as a defender, but you never really defended. Is that the way I read it?
He was the first offensive defender.
Some blokes just go and get the ball, Dwayne.
Yeah.
Actually, Dwayne, you were actually lined up on Rosie at Cardinia Park at one stage, I think.
I did.
I don't think Rosie knew you were on him. Or
Certainly,
he was on you.
not even at the end of the game did he know. I ended up chasing him for 4 quarters and couldn't find him. Back to the play, though. Bird, high bomb. Goods under it. And Patfull slaps it toward the line, and it finally rolls out. Yes, we will have a masterclass on Jonathan Brown at halftime with our two guns, Paul Roos and Alistair Lynch. 662 AFL games between them, and they'll be giving you a demo at halftime as to how to play on Jonathan Brown, or if you are Jonathan Brown. From the wing, Rich pops it up to Leuenberger and threads his way through some traffic nicely. No pass target, and Teddy Richards takes the mark.
At least Daniel Rich has started this quarter with a bit of purpose. He was pretty ordinary in the first quarter. He's had 3 touches already here at the start of the second.
Interesting too. It looks like Richards now has gone to Brown. I don't know, Lynch. It looks maybe John Longmire is wary, which we all are, of Brown's running power. So Grundy had him in the first quarter. Looks like Teddy Richards now got him in the second quarter.
Yeah, and that might be a consideration because Brown will be looking to get up the ground just to try to wear his direct opponent. That's a sloppy kick out in the full, so the turnover. McGlynn kick was wide. But Brown looked to get up the ground just so he can turn his direct opponent around and also just wear him out. So as the game goes on, he becomes tired.
Yeah, which works okay if you're on the one player for the whole game.
Yeah, that's right.
Switch a fresh guy onto you, it doesn't quite work.
No.
Collier. Adcock, as the boys said, having a good season, but not having a great first term here tonight. Wide ball from his boot. Retzlaff gets a free for an arm knock.
He's had a couple of free kicks now.
Play on advantage. Clark bombs it. under it. Matner read that better than anyone.
Yeah, the kick was probably about 10 metres too far out from goal. Just had to be a little bit deeper.
Goods held up. Patfull still with him.
They have steadied the ship a bit, Brisbane, but they probably would have liked to get an early goal here, Al, I reckon. Just they probably haven't got exactly what they wanted. They've adjusted a bit around their stoppages. I noticed Rich came from the backside of his last stoppage and ran through. So they've adjusted a couple of things, but I'm sure Bossy would have wanted to get that quick early goal.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. You need the reward for effort. If you put all the effort in and the change of structure as well, but then somehow Sydney Swans get through and kick a goal early against the play, and that can be certainly psychologically very sapping for the Lions. So they need to hang on here, regain possession and get the ball quickly into the forward 50.
Read the target. Collier with him. And we're seeing here another demonstration of what teams do to try and get through the zone or the press when every opposition player is within one kick of the ball. You try and either short pass or kick your way through it, or you hug the boundary and knock it out to get a restart. Polkinghorne got a toe on it. Bird put the handball up to Kennedy. Mauled, and we'll have a free kick against him.
Pinged him. And one of the reasons you say the kick through the press is the go, because if you have to handball through the press, it's very hard to get clear and you can't stop with a handball, whereas a kick to a mark, you can stop if needed.
Banfield, Jonathan Brown had to ask umpire Matthew Nichols to please back quickly, sir, and couldn't take it before it went out.
Jamie Charman.
They've got a few out.
Yeah, he's been on the sidelines quite a while, still battling with I think it's a knee injury or ankle injury.
Polkinghorne, first instinct there was to go backwards to full forward. Little nudge. Jonathan Brown got away with it.
No, he didn't.
Okay.
Not sure it was a little nudge, right?
Ted Richards.
And he was a bit, well, say he was unlucky, but the umpire was 5 metres away from him, and he did think he got away with it because his back was to the umpire.
Seaby couldn't mark, hits the deck. Shaw is away, burns them off. Eat my dust. Hammers the ball to half forward. Lewis Roberts-Thompson thrown out of the way by Merritt. Thumped away. Patfull to his own advantage. Collier gathers. Inboard to Austin. Bounces it. And we haven't seen at all so far Ash McGrath. Don't see him again here, really. Kennedy steals it back. Goes to LRT. More pain coming.
That was a beautiful kick from Kennedy. You saw the first one there, Al, where Lewis Roberts-Thompson didn't lead. And if you don't do that against Merritt, we walked past him. I didn't realise how big Merritt was until I walked past him before the game. Whereas that one there, as soon as Joey Kennedy got it, Lewis Roberts-Thompson led out to the fat side of the ground. It was a beautiful kick. He's got to keep moving on Merritt.
To push the margin beyond 40 points. And for the perfect start to this second term. Strikes it nicely. Struck it beautifully. 42 points the margin.
And that's the goal I was talking about, Ruzi, where the Brisbane Lions, as you said, around the contested ball and the clearances, they were doing extremely well to maintain possession and not concede goals. They had their inside 50s, but on this occasion, the first inside 50 for the Sydney Swans has gone lace out to Lewis Roberts-Thompson lead and converted the opportunity, whereas the Lions have been inside their 50 on 3 occasions, just haven't been able to generate a shot at goal.
And we talked about that in the first quarter, Al, where Brisbane don't seem to want to do that. They just don't seem to want to get control of the ball. They want to play up tempo all the time. Brisbane then had the tempo. John Longmire's boys took the tempo out of the game and then scored a goal. Exactly what you said.
So that is sapping. The Lions really need to hang on now to not concede another quick one.
Matner, high, big, long rainbow inside 50. Offhand, Stiller. Hanbury right with him. Shuffled out a handball, but couldn't find a teammate. Stiller out of side. Kennedy, a one-on-one. Cavalry arrives. And Green keeps it alive nicely, but no one to go to. Power, rolled, no free. Little shrug from Malcheski. Gets the kick away, but it's wide, and it's okay. O'Keefe inside the line.
That was a brilliant interchange there. Just took himself straight to the ball.
Low kick and a spear pass. Reed drops it, mops it up, gives to Jetta, gets it back, gives to Bird, runs to 50, sees the big sticks. Misses.
Yeah, once again, it's the momentum's now shifted back to the Swans, Al. So it'll be interesting to see if Brisbane do slow it down. They've been setting up for their kick-ins long up the middle, so it looks like they're going to do that again.
Yeah, the players are huddling up here and try to spread. So this is like a soft zone from the Sydney Swans, just to pick up a player as they come out from the huddle.
So Ash McGrath kicked 4 goals last week and was the big target up forward, kicking in from fullback right now. Everything turned on its ear. Green. High. Retzlaff couldn't mark. Jetta can't crumb. Ball in. Jonathan Brown feeds back. By the way, the Brisbane Lions wearing black armbands for Senior Constable Damien Leading. Shot and killed in the line of duty last week. So if you're wondering why the Brisbane Lions aren't wearing the black armbands, that is the reason. From the ball in. Still up. Works his way through. Couldn't get a decisive kick away. Lewis Roberts-Thompson. Bird. Austin cuts it off. Ran into a tackle, turns it back over. McVeigh bounces it inside 50. Merritt was playing front spot. Goods attacked him with a hip and shoulder. Merritt threw that away. Gets away with it.
I haven't seen it for a few years with Jonathan Brown, but just to get Brownie into the game, it might be that he puts himself up into the centre square just for 1 or 2 centre bounces, just to get involved so he can get his hands on the ball, because he's not getting enough supply at the moment.
Green to half forward. Speaking of Brownie, still can't get to her here. Yeah. Ty Kennelly. A long thump. Little tap down. Trent Dennis-Lane might peel onto this first. Gets there, leaves it behind. No push, free. Reid spins around and goals. Punishing.
And it's actually starting to play out as you sort of half expected after the first 5 minutes of this quarter. Very good work from the Brisbane Lions. Maintain possession, change their structures slightly. But once through that centre corridor, the Brisbane Lions seem very soft, to be honest. Their inside 50s aren't pressured, so the ball's going in with an enormous amount of pace, which puts your defence under enormous pressure. On this occasion, they've had plenty of time and opportunity to kick a goal.
It's really hard to see this coming. Not that the Swans haven't been playing well, but Brisbane have been really competitive, I felt, throughout all of the year. They probably had one bad game round 1, but they've been really competitive. This is a non-competitive performance. Swans outstanding. Swans up and about, but a really non-competitive performance at the moment.
Well, last week, Brisbane Lions against Adelaide Crows dominated the corridor. They forced the Crows wide, and their run-off halfback was extremely good, where they were hitting targets. They maintained their forward 50 entries. They maintained the ball on 63% of the time. So that's an enormous amount to hit targets, and they just haven't been able to get forward of centre with any continuity or fluency.
Kennedy high, Goods over his head, Patfull with him. Gets there, gets caught, slips and dropped it. Lucky he wasn't still tackled at the time. Pierce Hanley and slips through Jetta. Toward Power. Being beaten by Shaw. Knocked down towards Mattner. Just a spear along the wing by Green. And thumped out by Malcheski. Ball in. Crowd want to deliver it again. But you're allowed to do that in a marking contest.
Certainly under that one.
I suppose in some ways the scoreline is reflective of their ladder positions. This is 6th and 15th on the AFL ladder, or that was their positions coming into this round. But the Swans now on track to overtake Essendon on the ladder with a win tonight. A lot of footy to be played yet. Reid, Goods. Pokes it inside 50. Trent Dennis-Lane again.
This is a great handball from young Reid. Really slick handball and a beautiful kick from Adam Goods on the left there. And Trent Dennis-Lane's causing problems with his movement up there, Lynch. He does move around really well.
He does, and it's not just straight up at the ball. It's laterally, he moves well, finds space. We've mozzed him the first 2 times with his kicking. Has he got the distance from 50?
Just to push the margin out over 50 points. Better looking kick. It's got the carry. They've got 9 goals from 8 separate goal scorers.
Well, that was good work from Trent Dennis-Lane, and once again the Sydney Swans moving the ball very well from the centre forward. But here, now just notice here, Patfull and an experienced defender in Jed Adcock, they allowed the ball over the back. I'm seeing that in league football a fair bit over the last few weeks. Allowing the ball over the back puts you in a very vulnerable position, and I mean Adcock obviously had done the right thing, left his direct opponent, but didn't impact on the contest, allowed it over the back. So some good work there by Dennis Lane, but just the defence of the Brisbane Lions under an enormous amount of pressure, but the defensive spoiling is just starting to drop away a little bit. Too many balls getting over the back in that forward half.
Powell was in there, had a chance. O'Keefe in there, had a chance. Power back in. A duck of the head from McVeigh. Ball up.
I also think, Liz, they've got to address it. They're letting the Swans half forward coming up and they're dropping one off. And I know you mentioned Adcock affected the spoil there, but it's not working at the moment. I really think they need to now come off, go one-on-one everywhere along the ground. Don't give the Swans a free play around the stoppages.
Yeah.
Buick inside 50. And once again, it almost comes straight out. Ted Richards wrapped up. Going nowhere, and inside 50 numbers there. Sydney 30. Don't adjust your sets. That's the real numbers. Brisbane Lions 6.
So, Rosie, we've got the Adcock as the defensive sweeper off the ball. Is it McGlynn that's free for the Swans?
I think it's McGlynn's been coming up all the time, and McGlynn now is up to 9 possessions. Now, I know it's worked this time, but you can see there's 62-7. You've got to address something like that. If it's not working, you've got to come up with McGlynn. You've got to come up with the Swans half forwards.
So Polkinghorne would have got a free. Rich played onto advantage and then gave them a disadvantage, although a stump back to Retzlaff. They need a bit of fortune, and clever McVeigh. Look away handball to Ty Kennelly. He may be approaching 30 years of age in a couple of weeks. Still got some toe, Tyke. Kicks it inside 50. Trent Dennis Lane used his cleverness more so than body weight. Handballs it back. Malcheski sides his way through and getting tackled dead.
And he held onto the ball for that extra length of time because the Lions had dropped players back off, and there was Daniel Merritt and I think it was Pierce Hanley. So they were 50 metres away in front of the goal square. So Malcheski didn't want to blaze away.
Pierce Hanley, Stiller, back to Pierce, and now towards Jonathan Brown. And beaten hands down by Ted Richards. Poor kick though from Richards. In fact, it's going to work for him. It rolls out. And it's deliberate.
That's ridiculous.
What's going on here, Ruzi?
Well, that's rule of the week. They reckon the umpires do say they don't do this, Ruzi, but that's rule of the week, isn't it?
It has to be.
Obviously.
We've already seen 3 of them, two by hand and 1 by foot. Clearly, it's been an emphasis, but the biggest problem I have with that, they never let the clubs know that they've spoken about a rule, but it's obvious that they've done that, and all of a sudden we've had 3 free kicks.
So the players pick things up pretty well. They know now that it is rule of the week, but yeah, as you were saying, why not come out and say it Thursday?
Exactly.
Shaney Stiller. Understatement to tell you they need this. And he doesn't deliver.
Just getting back to what we talked about before, Al, and we see John Longmire there. I mean, John will be really happy with the way things are going tactically, because those half forwards of the Swans are coming up. It's incumbent on the other coach to make the adjustment. So it really is Vossi now that's got to say, well, there's no good. And we've seen it work a couple of times where the Swans, the last 2 entries, haven't found a forward. But in reality, it's 62-8. So the Swans can keep going forward, not having to score. Brisbane have to score.
Smith kick smothered. Danger here. Banfield, terrible kick. Couldn't make something of it. Grundy short. Back towards Smith. Dropped it. Kennedy mops up that mess. Gives to Johnson. And they're away on the outer side. Bird pokes it towards Lewis Roberts-Thompson. Couldn't take the mark. Seaby came up. Knocks it out. Crowd won't deliver it. Don't get it. Just his 3rd game. 2011 mark Seaby after the ankle problem, and perplexed Michael Voss. Leuenberger knocks it down. Up there away again. O'Keefe, Lewis Roberts-Thompson, Adam Goods got a fly on it. Reed bumped. Goods toe poke. Still alive. Dangerous territory. Goods trying to track it down, and he does. He got there, breaks the tackle, handles it back. Kennedy from 20 out. Don't tell me. They are demolishing them.
Well, certainly it's very difficult to draw a positive out for the Brisbane Lions, but that seemed too easy. Goods was brushing tackles. Broken tackles kill teams. And we see the long ball goes in. Now, defenders are usually fairly comfortable to spoil the ball, but here, broken tackles where Adam Goods just is able to waltz around and brush one. I think it's Polkinghorne on that occasion, but you shouldn't have a player spare at the top of the goal square, and on that occasion just slotted one through. That was Kennedy.
Yeah, you'd love to know who Joey Kennedy's direct opponent was then. You can't have a midfielder coming from the stoppage as they did over the other side. You can't have a Josh Kennedy running into the forward 50 by himself, and as you mentioned, Adam Goods breaking tackles, but you've got a free midfield at 25 metres out directly in front to handball the ball to.
Yeah, far too easy. That will be certainly really irking Michael Voss, amongst other things, I'm sure.
Simon Black wins a free. A rare possession for him. Hasn't seen a lot of it yet. Nor has Jonathan Brown, and won't see it here. Ted Richards gobbles it up. Jude Bolton to set it up. Adam Goods. Strong hands.
Strong hands, and that's probably one of another difference is the half forwards for the Sydney Swans have got strong hands. They're taking very clean marks at the moment. We're just forward, and I mean that was a very difficult one for Jonathan Brown, but when the team's up and going, the kick's a bit better, he takes those marks. They're just down on confidence at the moment.
McVeigh floats it up in hope. Clark and Lewis Roberts-Thompson jump. Trent Dennis-Lane got there first, but then left it behind. Merritt needs to find a body. Heads out wide to Redden. Pierce Hanley being chased down. Got it up to Rich. Back to Adcock. Tries to run his way through trouble. Unsuccessful. Malcheski kicked into his own man, Jude Bolton. It'll work. Jenner from 55. Across the face. Ellenberger couldn't mark.
That one's gone out of bounds again, but again we see this Malcheski kick straight in the back of his teammate. But again we saw a pack of 4-5 players going up with Brisbane Lions defenders. The ball again got over the back.
Flicked down, Leuenberger, and kicked off the deck. I think Bird's got that. He got a foot on it, and he's gold. Amazing.
Well, if we see that again, Al, I mean...
Well, that's a stoppage clearance. And you're 30 metres out from goal. And goal side, Rich allows his direct opponent to get goal side with space. Now, that's a really good... that's a lucky goal, but to allow your opponent to get goal side must be a cardinal sin. That's
inexcusable by Rich. I mean, really, he's played enough football now to know that you do not stand that side of your opponent that close to goal. Really, really poor effort, that.
Is that the first drop kick goal we've seen for a while?
When did we see a drop kick?
Well,
that was a drop kick.
That was a drop kick goal.
One of the great players of all time kicked a drop kick goal.
My first goal in league football was a drop kick goal.
Well, there you go.
Boys, that was
from 3 metres out. Sorry, Pickers.
That was their 10th separate goal kick or individual goal kick already. Brisbane, Sydney, I should say. So everyone's making a contribution for the Swans tonight.
Absolutely. Hanbury backtracks. Johnson, play on not 15. Malcheski slides it towards half forward. Collier got there first but couldn't pick it up. O'Keefe does. Polkinghorne with the hip and shoulder allowed Daniel Rich to be gang tackled, and we'll get a ball up.
He was certainly in there, working hard, Daniel Rich. I mean, one of the great midfielders used to play with the Brisbane Bears, Craig Lambert, used to talk about when the play was out of control and you're a midfielder, you'd lock onto your direct opponent, get defensive side and stop the flow going against you. And that's what the midfielders for Brisbane have to do. Just stop the rot to start with, try to control the tempo.
Well, if you look at the numbers of the Swans, guys, 14, 14, 14, 13, 12, 12. So if you're a Brisbane midfielder, it's probably not a bad idea to lock onto your opponent because he knows where the ball is.
Well, grab Kennedy because he's at it 14 times and looks like racking it up even more.
Well,
sorry, Liam.
Boys, the setup's just not right. I mean, you can't be winning the hit-outs 26-10 and being smashed like they are at the stoppages. They've got to find a starting point as a midfielder.
But I think hit-outs to disadvantage are a nothing stat. That's the reason why more coaches are ignoring hit-outs and only looking at hit-outs to advantage. That's 50, by the way. And Mattner will have the shot from the goal line.
Yeah, that's great in theory, Dwayne. But I'll tell you right now, as a midfielder, as a former midfielder, you like your ruckman to get their hands on the ball. At least then you can dictate where your starting points are.
So whose fault is it if you get the ruck knock but don't get the clearance? Is the midfielder or the ruckman?
It's your midfield group.
Mattner kicks his second for the evening.
Well, It's not often you come to the footy hell and see 20 scoring shots to 3, and this is just probably sums up where Brisbane are at the moment in tonight's game. Yeah, 50 metre, a little bit stiff, you know, but just undisciplined, unnecessary, didn't need to do it. And Marty Matnick, you know, he's going to be 60 metres out from goal. Instead, he's on the goal line kicking a goal. So
let's
see the Lions.
And Shelton's had to come off with Matner's boot to the groin.
Yeah, just to rub salt into the wound, Dwayne.
Well, hopefully they don't do that, Alistair.
I wouldn't want to. But, just to compound the problem, let's say.
Well, they're sick of their midfield setup. They've mixed it up now. They've got Green in there, Polkinghorn in there, and they're trying to lock on, but damage well and truly done here.
With head clash. O'Keefe and Leuenberger.
Mad scramble in the middle. Ball up, and the doctor coming out. Have a look.
Seen a few stars for a minute.
I mean, Jonathan Brown's probably, let me see the head clash there. Jonathan Brown's probably not in good enough, Nick Lynchy, do you think, to go in the midfield at the moment in terms of fitness? Or
and realistically, we'll just wait for this one.
So a bouncing ball attacked by Kennelly. A few thought about waiting for the bounce. Kennelly went and got the bounce. Gave to Johnson. Out of side. Buick hands it up. Redden trying to create something. Green goes to the boundary. Bad option.
And realistically, like how you used to manage one of your superstars in Adam Goods, didn't want him jumping in the ruck, it's probably not a great idea to probably have Jonathan Brown with his knees and OP issues sliding around on the wicket either.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think he could go in there for 1 or 2 clearances. His fitness at a good enough level there, but maybe it's just a conservative side, keep him off that part of the ground.
Polkinghorn towards Clark. Can't collect it. Matner knocks that out. That was deliberate.
I guess the other side of it with Jonathan Brown, I mean, look, I mean, they're still in the game. It's a long way to go. So you've got to be careful, don't you? You don't want to. This game may be out of reach. 72 points, so you do have to protect your stars. It's a long year.
Well, you do, but sort of get him into the game so he can go back forward and take some contested marks and actually maybe get a clearance for the Lions at the moment, who are struggling to get their hands on the ball, except for Leuenberger.
So Jetta takes off. Malcheski, McVeigh, Malcheski drives it long. Lewis Roberts Thompson on the end of it. Almost a perfect pass. He spills it. Stiller. Buick. Bumped after the spoil. No free. Picked up by Smith. Shorts it inside 50. McGlynn.
I mean, that typifies the game there, Al, I reckon. Nick Smith made up probably 15 metres to get that spoil. Knocked the ball, then got back up, picked it up again and hit Benny McGlynn.
He's been a fantastic recruit, Benny McGlynn, along with Kennedy as well. It's something actually the Sydney Swans have appeared from the outside to do extremely well. Give players another opportunity.
He's kicked 19 goals, 11 this season, so he's a sharpshooter. Bends that back. Half their team have kicked goals. 11 goal scorers, the Swans.
Yeah, look, the Swans are generally not a high possession team, and that's what makes it so surprising when you look at the numbers here. And as I said, here it is here. Nick Smith, just a really good effort, gets back up. The Brisbane bloke, unfortunately, he's out of bounds, and then a kick to Benny McGlynn. But the numbers are huge. Bird 15, O'Keefe 15, Bolton 15, Kennedy 14, McVeigh 14, Goods 12, Matner 11, and you just keep going down and down the list.
Well, McGlynn, he's been a good player. The Sydney Swans have 10 players with 10 disposals or more. The Brisbane Lions have 0. So, and that's reflected in the stats, 195 to 107 disposal count.
Shade by Woden, Gary O'Donnell, everybody working overtime for the Brisbane Lions at the moment. 2 minutes and 20 to get something to start their game, because they haven't started yet. Short pass inside 50. Retzlaff couldn't take the mark. Jude Bolton gets back. Hanbury. 1 goal 2, plays 13 goals 8. It's hard to believe. Malcheski.
Inside 50s, 37-12. It's not half time yet. 21 scoring shots to 3.
That's amazing. 37 inside 50s.
Grundy.
And they've done this really well, Sydney. Even though they're up now, they're just still able to control the tempo. Whereas, as I said, even when Brisbane had control, they just kept on going up and up and up and up. And then they didn't take the heat off the game at any stage in the first half.
Well, exactly. They're not optimistically rolling in through the corridor and trying to open Brisbane up. They're just taking their time, being very patient, identifying a switch that might open up like here and push across. And then it's the work rate of players like O'Keefe and Malcheski and McGlynn that push over into that space to create options moving forward. They're stretching the press of the Brisbane Lions.
Jude Bolton towards Adam Goods. Bumped on the marking contest. Free kick.
It was a little unlucky from Joel Patfield, but really well done from Adam Goods. He had run under the ball, but sort of stopped a little and jumped. And just with the momentum, Joel Patfield gave him a shove in the back.
Matner will run in and bomb this or short it. He puts a floater to the hot spot. Impossible ball to mark. Simon Black. 45 seconds from half-time, and Jonathan Brown finally takes a mark, but it's at half-back to Rich, to Retzlaff. Can they get a momentum swinger? Rich, with 35 seconds on the clock, heads wide. Austin.
The players behind the ball for the Swans had nowhere for the Brisbane Lions to go long.
Leuenberger, down to 25 seconds, gives it up. Clark, short, Retzlaff. Okay. Crowd find voice. Retzlaff will go back, and he might even kick this after the siren.
Gee, that was a good kick from Mitch Clark. He came steaming through the corridor and provided a handball receive option, and then really pulled the kick. Looked like he was about to blaze away to go deep, but luckily identified there was no one deep and pulled the kick short, hit the target, Bryce Retzlaff.
In some ways, he has any chance they've got of winning this game in his hands right now. Kick this, go in, have some hope. He'll kick it from just inside 50. He's kicked 3-5 this year. Lovely, delightful. That could be the fire starter. Massive roar from the Gabba crowd. They're going to stick around. Half-time at the Gabba, 13 goals, 8, 86. Plays 2-2, 14.
From the front, Rich has to use the ball long into the forward half and really get McGrath and Brown and Clark into the game in the forward 50.
We'll learn a little bit about the Brisbane Lions in this second half. And get a secondary ball up.
Yeah, I think it's a good point, Dwayne. I think we will learn. They're still young, Al. I mean, they're going to go through this. They've got some really young players, and I think Dwayne's right. We'll learn a bit about them in this second half.
Well, they've thrown Adcock on the ball for a bit of hardness, you'd think. He's really struggled down back tonight.
Matner's kick marked by Adcock to Patfull. Short Austin. Short Redden. Oh, he played on into trouble. Umpire gave him the benefit of the doubt. Floats that. Retzlaff. Kicked a goal just before the half-time siren. In fact, just after the half-time siren. After marking just in front of the siren. Can they get another? Outside of the foot. Polkinghorne. That's incredibly horrible to watch that a player can't use his left.
Just the first stoppage after half-time, Al, though. We saw that half-forward come up again from the Swans and the Brisbane guy drop off. Now, I know he ended up marking it, but you end up starting your attacks from half-back, even if you do win it. First half, the Swans were getting clearances and scoring, so I would have thought they would have adjusted that at half-time, come up with those players, win the ball at the clearances, not off half-back.
Yep.
Seabee.
You make a really good point, Rosie, because you're right. Adcock started right in the middle of the ground, and as soon as the ball was in the air, he just slid back.
So midfield back he appears to be playing to hopefully set up drive off half-back. Just hasn't worked for the majority of the game so far when he has been the loose man across half-back.
Redden to Leuenberger.
Just need to probably get the switch here. They're just not working hard enough forward of the ball to give that spread across the other side of the ground. Now they've come the near side. Now Mitch Clark has obviously pushed up But this is where all the Swans' defence is. They're all loaded up. Their presses loaded up on this wing. Very difficult to get any sort of penetration with the Swans' structure in place.
Well, it's slow ball movement, isn't it?
Yeah,
it
is.
It just suits the Swans down to a T.
I still think a switch probably is the go. You might have to go back a little bit to get across the other side of the field, but
Redden puts it up high and very wide, and again Ted Richards wins the battle.
That's the key to it, Al. When the Swans do that and get held up, they switch the ball to the other side of the ground. No Brisbane player would work back into space, so they couldn't switch it. They had to kick it down the line.
Hanbury back to Kennelly, wide McGlynn. That's the mark in front of McGrath, who's barely seen it tonight after being the hero last week. Jetta burns them off again, runs the outer wing. Ball just didn't bounce kindly for him. Turnover. Good tackle laid on Collier. They come away with it. McGrath, Power, Adcock, short half-forward Retzlaff. Can't take the mark. Hits the deck. Leuenberger, he might run in and have a go. Gives it to Redden. He should have the shot. Does have the shot for 2 goals in a row. Can't kick it.
You saw the pace of Lewis Jetta on the far wing. I don't mind that. Look, he took a punt. That's good. Just the bounce didn't, as you said, Dwayne, the bounce just didn't come straight back up to him.
Well, pretty ambitious bounce on a slippery night, I would have thought.
Yeah, I reckon there's a licence you can give to a few players in your team. Back yourself and there you go.
Banfield ignored the handball, and they do get 2 in a row, the Lions.
Well, that is some good work. Banfield, good crumbing work as a small forward. His defensive side of his game is usually very good. But here, once again, we've seen this a lot over recent weeks. The ball getting over the back, which is a cardinal sin as a defensive unit. And Banfield was the one. He was in the right spot and snapped a pretty easy goal in the end. But I think the experienced defenders in that pack for the Swans would be disappointed with that, the execution of that spoil.
I think it was actually Marty Matner that sort of came up. Marty's had a fantastic first half, 15 possessions, 2 goals, but I think he was the one, Al, that came over the top, missed the spoil, and the ball went over the back. It does happen a lot in the modern game of football.
It does. You like that as a small forward if you've just snuck out the back of the pack and the ball slips out. Very handy. And as you said, Dwayne, that at least is 2 goals in succession, one either side of the half-time break for the Lions.
Seaby from the ball up, knocked it down. Leuenberger, almost a throw. Polkinghorne wobbles it inside 50. Jonathan Brown feeds back onto it. Pierce Hanley, little fumble, a sidestep, drives it long. This is...
I know you talked about him pre-game, Lynchy, but this bloke is looking more and more like Kennelly every day. Even the way he moves, he loves to cut back inside. He's got good speed.
2 of his past 3 games, Pickers, have been career best stats games for Pierce Hanley. He's having an outstanding year, and the last 3 weeks have been sensational.
And here's the
prototype.
If I say the older version.
Turnover. Banfield.
Not his best kick, Ty Kennelly, either.
We're just about to give him a rap how good he's been for so long for the Sydney Swans, but we'll touch on Pierce Hanley a little bit more later. But bad turnover, Banfield opportunity for 2 in a row for himself.
Well, he kicked 3 goals last week from just 8 kicks, Todd Banfield. Has a chance here to make it 2 goals from 5 kicks. Across the face, big leap Clark. No crummers. Hanbury, Bird, Grundy, Jetta.
Well, on the Pierce Hanley, this is his 3rd year, and I think he's played about 22 games, Dwayne. And I mean, his first 2 years, as a lot of the Irish do, really struggled with being homesick, a long way from home, obviously, and just struggled with injuries as well. So very difficult to settle in when you're not playing in the senior team and injured. So he's back and playing extremely well and using the ball well off half-back. So he's been a real key, and he's been one of the big positives for the Lions.
Yeah, had a staph infection as well last year, which was a massive setback. Power to half-forward. Banfield again, same spot. Gives it up this time. Clark from the pocket. It's a dribbler across the face. Out of play might be a win. It is a win for the Lions. That'll do. Well, they can reset.
This is the most encouraging stage of the game, as Luke Power goes into the chairs, looked after by his teammates there, they're actually getting their hands on the ball, dominating inside 50s in the start of this third term.
Clark tries to knock on Ted Richards, and that's horrendous as well.
And things are starting to go against the Sydney Swans. Kennelly, poor kick. Ted Richards, unusual kick out in the full. All of a sudden, a couple of key contributors getting their hands on the ball for the Lions. Simon Black with this one. Now, he won't try to... He'll chip this one 15 metres out from goal, I would have thought.
He might go for it. He does go for it. It's bending back. The last of the Fab Four. Paul McCartney goes.
Well, I didn't think he was going to have a ping, but obviously Simon Black, I haven't been at training for a while, so that is a very nice goal and made the best of a half opportunity. Now, there's not a lot of pressure on Ted Richards and didn't really straighten up on that left. It wasn't a great drop, but from about 48 metres out, Simon Black's just slotted that one through. Now, all of a sudden, the midfield and the forwards of the Brisbane Lions are feeling a little bit of confidence come back into the game.
And this is more like the Lions we expected, just that burst team. They really are a team that can get on a roll. I mean, they have been for the last sort of 10, 12 years, haven't they? They've relied on winning clearances, getting the ball forward really quickly and kicking goals in bunches.
Leuenberger down, Jude Bolton got a little toe on it. Power hacks it to half forward. Jonathan Brown gets there. Smith with the spoil. They've got some momentum. They might get a free here. No free. Brown about to get run down from behind. Ball.
Just Brownie's eyes lit up. Just thought he was going to have an opportunity. What does Michael Voss, outside the structural changes that he may have made at half-time, but what does he do psychologically to his team? Is it just about creeping forward? I mean, obviously 72 points down at half-time. Do you want to win the quarter? Is that all you aim for?
Yeah, look, you can't worry about the scoreboard when you're so far behind. You've got to set little goals. You've got to, and in those, as silly as it sounds, in those games, you probably have to be more positive than negative because you don't want it to be a 120-point blowout. And look, whatever he did at half-time starting to work now. They've worked their way back in the game. 1 goal before half-time and 2 goals after half-time. But it is just about winning the quarter.
Yeah. I'll tell you what has lifted the effort.
Power and Adcock combined to mess that up. McGlynn, Jude Bolton. This will be against the run of play. Trent Dennis-Lane, full forward. Lions have got the numbers, and that's a brilliant tackle by Patfull, not rewarded. And it'll be dragged through for a behind or off the behind post. It'll be a ball in.
I'll tell you what, Pickers, it would have wanted to have lifted.
No, might have been
couldn't have gone backwards.
Might have been a fearful spray at half-time, maybe, but yeah, no, they've certainly lifted, and there's a bit of enthusiasm out there now after a few goals.
There's life in this one at the moment. The crowd can sense it. Leuenberger rolls it to the boundary. Hanbury sees it out.
See, I'll tell you what, that was courageous of Leuenberger to take it out of the ruck in that position there, because he really got that ball on the boot quickly. Dangerous, free kick if you don't get a genuine kick away in that situation.
Leuenberger again knocks it down. Simon Black starting to have an influence. Hanley, little tap on, and they gain 30 metres.
Well, one player who's been pretty good for Sydney tonight, Craig Bird, has had 16 touches. He's disappeared down the race with the doctor, so quite sure. He didn't look like he was in any pain, but he has disappeared into the Swans' room, so I'll keep an eye on him.
Leuenberger does it again. Kick smothered. Mattner toes it inside 50. Jude Bolton knocks on. Back to Mattner. Heard the voice, O'Keefe. Tucked into the boundary.
It was well out.
Crowd thought it was out. Play on. Goods attacks it. Trent Dennis-Lane, Stiller, all got a touch on it. McGlynn pounces, runs, kicks. Momentum swings again.
I don't want to harp on it again, but I will, Al. So at that last stoppage, Adcock's off the back again. So they've kicked 3 goals in a row. Ryan O'Keefe's kicked that out of the hot dog stand. I think he might have clipped the sauce bottle on the way through with that kick.
His right foot was out.
Yeah,
that's a long way out.
But Benny McGlynn, again, Adcock off the back at the stoppages. They lose the stoppage, and then all of a sudden the half forward goes back and kicks a goal.
So it's one thing to roll the dice in the middle of the ground, but to roll the dice, here's the O'Keefe out of the bounds. His right foot's out, his left foot's 2 feet out, so that's a bad call. But the positioning of McGlynn, he was by himself at the front of the stoppage, 15 metres out from goal.
Big boos as Polkinghorne pumps it. Jonathan Brown just hasn't been his night. Bounced off his chest. Grundy, Kennelly, Malcheski. And will it travel out? It bounces on the line. Well, you never know.
And if he does have a weakness at all in his game, Jonathan Brown, I rate him as highly as anyone. Yeah. It is the fact, and you played with him, Al, it is the fact that he goes for chest mark after chest mark after chest mark.
He's done that since he was a young player up here. And I think, actually, I mean, I have to check with Brownie, but I think he did some coaching with Dermot Brereton. And Dermot used to always, like, as a hit-up centre forward, take the ball on his chest. But certainly that's something that Jonathan Brown has put into play. And see on this occasion, just there, and that's in the masterclass at half-time, the double grab, and you can get a spoiling. Good coaching, Roosie.
O'Keefe backtracks and got caught, dropped it. Polkinghorne shuffled out of his grasp. A tie-up. Just a quick question. You can get an arm knocked free when you're going for a mark out in front, but you never get it when you're going for a chest mark.
No, that's right.
No, that's right.
But it's still an arm knock.
Oh, yeah, that's right. But that's the thing. It's more obvious, Dwayne, to the umpires. If you've got your arms stretched out, you can get hit in the back of the head, around the neck, or chopping the arms. If it's a chest mark, it's a lot harder for the umpire to see.
You mentioned Dermot Brereton, Roosie. I mean, the other player who did it a lot too was Wayne Carey. You know, those big bodies, and they try to protect the ball with the back. But you're right, it does leave you, you can see Craig Bird there, but it does leave you vulnerable to get the ball spoiled.
And just on Wayne Carey, Lee Matthews, Jonathan Brown's three-time premiership coach, said this week that he believes Wayne Carey was a superior centre-half forward to Jonathan Brown. If he had to pick a team to play for his life, Lee Matthews said he'd pick Wayne Carey to play there, not Jonathan Brown. Which is not a slight on Jonathan Brown necessarily, it's just shows you that Wayne Carey's the best of the two.
Oh, he was, and I didn't hear the comments from Lee Matthews, but Lee probably is also referring to longevity. I mean, Brownie's had a lot of injuries through his career, so actually stringing years together with full fitness has been probably the issue with Brownie, but having played a number of years and obviously in 3 premierships with him, I mean, it's like he's right up there.
It's like comparing Megan Gale and Jennifer Hawkins. Fair dinkum. You'd be happy with either, wouldn't you?
Stay away from that one, Pickers.
Thanks for that, Liam. We'll talk to you after the game about that. High towards the midfield. I thought you were married. Patfull in the middle. Cheerio to your wife and kids. Stiller dragged down by Goods. Wrapped up. Little tap out. Trent Dennis-Lane. Still in the maul. Hanley breaks free. Couldn't get a decisive handball out. Goods does. McGrath bangs a wobbly torpedo to half forward. Brown, there's that chest mark on cue. Jonathan Brown.
He takes some very good chest marks, that's for sure. But one of these strengths, when he takes the chest mark, he certainly protects the ball by putting his body directly in line with his direct opponent and the ball. And that's a very good mark, and that's what the Sydney Swans don't want to see, and that's Jonathan Brown get involved. If he starts to get on the score sheet, certainly the floodgates might open and just give the Brisbane Lions just a sneaky chance.
If you've joined us late, the Sydney Swans did lead by 78 points late in the second term. Big bomb, Jonathan Brown, and it's knocked through. I think when you're running for 4 of the last 5 goals.
Sorry, Dwayne. I think when you're running back with the flight of the ball, Al, it's a different situation. Like Carey did that really well because you're actually trying to protect yourself as well.
Yeah.
I like the idea because you're getting the elbows up, you're getting your arms up, and you're protecting any contact coming the other way. Even that one there, we saw Grundy nearly get a fist on it. Yeah. Now look, he's done it over and over again, so it's just a minor thing for him. But it's now become a habit. So he's an absolute superstar of the competition. But if you want to be a little bit picky, I think that's the thing where maybe over the years he could have added to it the number of marks he's taken if he had taken a few more out the front.
It used to be a nightmare, I can assure you, when he was coming back with the flight of the ball all the time. That was one time playing full forward for the Brisbane Lions wasn't a good position.
Bird played 16 minutes, third term. Mattner across the face.
Here's the run and spread for the Swans as well. They're working extremely hard out to the far wing.
Malcheski. Hanbury.
I must say, different to the first half, the Brisbane Lions players actually went with the Swans on that spread, so it was well covered.
60-metre launch by Hanbury. Half forward. Seavey got hands to it, couldn't mark it. Trent Dennis-Lane wrapped up by McGrath in a careful tackle that was high but contributed to by Trent Dennis-Lane.
Well, they certainly got a lot more energy in the second half, haven't they, Brisbane? You're right. When Sydney spread it then, the first half they were getting it inside their forward 50.
Yeah.
That time they were able to hold them up.
Mattner having a big influence. He runs for the line, and there's your rule of the week.
There's the rule of the week.
That's 4.
That's the Daniel Merritt one, where Daniel Merritt's been caught over the last month twice for running over the boundary line. And Marty Mattner, I mean, he wanted to get it over the line, but that is harsh, really.
Polkinghorne sits it up. Jonathan Brown couldn't get a run at it. Little hand on it was for Jesse O'Brien. So they've used their sub, the Brisbane Lions. They've brought their sub on. That's wide. We'll find out who's off for the game shortly.
Rowan
from Liam
Buick.
Pickering. It's Rowan Buick off. Okay. McGrath. Gee, that was harsh.
Gee whiz. Oh.
So McGrath was playing on, and Trent Dennis-Lane, who was about to man the mark up, he had a right to go and man the mark.
Didn't he mark and then go forward? And Dennis Lane was just running up to the mark.
You've got a right to go into the 5-metre exclusion zone if you're
On the mark.
anyway.
I don't know how else you get there.
That's a good point.
It's very tough.
That's a bomb to the goal square. Brown bumped off the ball, no free. Puts his arms out in outrage.
Little mention to the umpire that it might have got a free kick there, ump. Sure, that's what he said.
But Dennis Lane off. We'll get some work done. Back into play. Been a different game in this third term. Brisbane Lions have at least come out to play. Kennedy, handball smothered. That was a little high and contributed to by Adcock. So that could be holding the ball. You bet it is. If you bury your head in somebody's midriff and just barrel them, the free kick will be against you in this day and age. Bird.
I think it's another hit, timeout, we mentioned before. At least Brisbane are now holding the Swans up. In the first half, they weren't able to hold them up, so they're a bit more active. They're a bit more accountable when they lose the ball.
Yeah, good coverage once again. And you probably, once again, the Sydney Swans work rate just here is they're a bit more stagnant, but they do like this. This is where they come into their own, their spread, and if they can carry the ball over Mitch Clark and get to McVeigh, they could be away again.
Out of side. Short. Oh, no, it's McVeigh. Bumped. Inboard. Malcheski. Goods leads short. He's ignored. McLean running hard. Bounces away from him. He taps it in. Leuenberger attacks it nicely. Handball's inboard. Again, they've got the runner. Jesse O'Brien, the sub, fresh on. Jonathan Brown all the way up to the wing. Redden's peeling for him. Goes and gets it. Good grab under some pressure from Shaw. Now Jonathan Brown a long way from where he'd like to be. And gets it in that spot.
And I'm sure you'll find his direct opponent is inside defensive 50, which is Heath Grundy. So he's dropped right back there, and he'll just wait for Brown to come back in there.
But this is the good. Just chip it around, see if something opens up. They may even be forced to come back this way.
Ticked into time on third term. Green wrapped up, shuffles it out. Hanbury play on because he ducked his head into it, then was mauled. Kennedy wobbles it. Merritt goes hard. So too does Patful. They're both there. Patful will give this to Merritt. He can go. He gives it instead. Stiller. McGrath to launch one long. Sidestep. The drop punt. Jonathan Brown. 3 players to beat. And Richards takes the mark.
And that's where we know, every team knows that 2/3 of the ball inside 50 for the Lions will go to Jonathan Brown. So continually, the Swans have been able to peel off and 3rd and 4th up jumper. But also another move, Ash McGrath has gone behind the ball. He's off half-back, so it gives some extra run off half-back for Brisbane Lions.
So Green, short, Banfield, Redden. Just pops it to full forward. Clark down there, manhandled, no free. Crowd pleading for it. Johnson collects. Rolls it along the boundary line. Mattner turns his way to the line. Crowd want a deliberate or ball or holding the man. They want anything they can get right now. Retzlaff outside of the foot tried it. So many players unable to kick on their opposite foot these days, and he's disappointed with being unable to kick with his opposite foot.
Yeah, disappointed. I tell you, there was no players prepared to step over the line with the ball in their hand on that occasion.
Marty Mattner did a pirouette.
He did duck back into the corridor.
Yeah, the way we're going, we can just about do away with the boundary line and just have the fence.
They just put a wall up. Ice hockey.
Short, Black, inside 50. Again, off hands, no mark to Retzlaff. Okay, high free kick, and the crowd now realise it's a Brisbane Lions free. 22 minutes gone. Luke Power beyond his range here, you'd think.
Yeah, he really needs to hit a target.
To the goal square. Brown's down there, and that was easy pickings for the Swans defence.
Yeah, look, Dwayne, he's never going to kick that, I think. I mean, they're the ones where really you've got to know your distance. I mean, Lukey Powell's not a really long kick. He needed to set up for a kick inside 50 or just work it around the arc. There's no point in just sitting it up there and getting it spoilt through.
And there's Rowan Buick. He's been subbed off. Jesse O'Brien into the game. Just a couple of key stats for this quarter. Inside 50s are 12-4 in favour of Brisbane. And that's probably the main one where they've really dominated. The Boys spent plenty of time in their forward half. 2 goals, 4 to 1 point. So 6 shots a goal to 1. They just probably need to capitalise a bit more on their opportunities in this third term while they're dominating possession.
Well, they've only reduced the margin by 4 points since half-time. So they haven't got value for their effort, but their effort's certainly been there since half-time.
Kennedy tucked up against the line. Banfield pushed in the side. That's legal. McVeigh dumped. Jonathan Brown made the tackle hurt.
I think you touched on it before, though, Al. You know when the game's... Any time you play in the Lions, it's going to go to Jonathan Brown. But when you're 70 points down half-time, it's going to go there more often. So the Swans just know where the ball's going. And that's made it harder. Even though the inside 50s and they've had some scoring shots, it has made it harder for them to score as well.
McGrath, not sure what he's trying to do there, but advantage, you want a free kick. Stiller bombs it from 55, and again on the goal line, the Swans have the numbers and knocked through for a behind. You saw warming up the sub for the Sydney Swans, Andreas Everett, maybe not far from coming on.
Ash McGrath has hurt his ankle there, just got an accidental trip. That left ankle is causing a bit of discomfort as he tries to grab his spot in the zone.
McVeigh, 25 minutes gone, third term. Short up the line, Hanbury. Sydney Swans win this. They'll edge up the ladder 1 spot. They'll overtake the Bombers and be a threat for top 4 the way they're playing. This will be 3 wins out of their last 4. High inside 50 towards Goods. Half held by Patfull, no free. No free to Lewis Roberts-Thompson. And Adam Goods just makes it a pile on.
Now, boys, looks like Sydney going to substitute Trent Dennis-Lane here. And Everett's taken the vest off, so Dennis-Lane, I don't think he's injured. He just looks a bit tight in the calves. They got him back on, had a quick look at him, but probably thought enough's enough. 10-goal lead. Yeah,
first game back, Trent Dennis-Lane, so just managing his minutes maybe. Speaking of subs, there's Jesse O'Brien, the sub for the Lions. Half forward, Banfield gets there first. Toe on it as Mattner goes to ground, and he knocked it out.
That one's deliberate.
That's number 5 for the night. We're on record pace for deliberates. In fact, I think we've already broken the record with 5 of them. And Ted Richards takes the mark.
That one was probably deliberate last week, though, as well. He just cracked it over the line.
Bird.
Maybe it's part of the incentive scheme.
Yeah, maybe.
The more you give, the bonuses.
Well, the umpires get a bonus. Okay.
Instead of $50 a goal, $50 a deliberate.
Jetta. Stiller. Jetta.
Oh, well done.
Steals it. And he's away.
Long.
Lewis Roberts-Thompson, Daniel Merritt. Roberts-Thompson holds his ground. Sold the dummy. Awesome.
Brucey, I'm tipping from your reaction that we don't see a lot of LRT just ducking around players and kicking goals like that.
Oh, look, he's had a terrific night tonight. Great coaching move putting him there, but certainly the smell cow's not normally in the repertoire of Lewis Roberts-Thompson. He's a really good, solid defender and been a terrific player. Great effort by Jets to steal that off. And a really nice long kick in, but it's been a massive win here for the Swans.
Sydney Swans, number 13.
Brucey, just for those who are new to football, and for me.
Didn't play at Fitzroy. It's a very Fitzroy term, that
what
one.
Did you call the dummy?
Smell cow, yeah.
Show the cow the leather.
Showing the leather.
Show the leather to your opponent and duck around.
Have a smell of the cow.
Smell the cow,
Right.
put it in their face and duck around.
Isn't it a pigskin?
Don't spoil it.
Rick's the story.
We've been saying
Made
it
out
for
of a
20
cow.
years.
Kangaroo brand footy made of pigskin, and you've called it the smell cow.
Maybe that was the problem with
I didn't
Fitzroy.
make it up.
Right. Rich taken out of play. Here's the dummy again, or the smell cow.
There it is. Look at this. That's outstanding. Well done.
The smell cow. Was it a Doc Wilden comment, maybe?
That was our problem. We weren't concentrating on footy.
Yep. Banged inside 50 again. Bouncing ball over a couple of heads. Retzlaff waiting, gathers, and kicks one.
Retzlaff, he'd be very happy with that one out over the back to get a goal, and a very quick reply for the Brisbane Lions, which is important, and a clearance. And now, once the ball hits the ground, it's always going to go all over the place, and Bryce was the one that read it the best. But clearance work is starting to pick up for the Lions, which they'll get in smashed at. The contested ball count for this quarter is right up as well, so plenty of good signs. And we said we're going to find out a bit about the Lions. Certainly it's been good.
Yeah, first real effective clearance, though, isn't it? It was just a sort of quick kick going in and a bounce over the head. Not sure where Teddy Richards was going there, but once again, Al, you've touched on it all night. Another goal over the back of defenders.
Yeah.
From the ball up. Brisbane free kick. Simon Black's ball. And they finish the quarter with 2 in a row. Spears it wide, hoping for Clark. He's within range there.
Tee this one up by the look of it.
And has a full right to pull the margin back under 60 points. Set sail. It's long. And again, it's touched on the line.
They had 3 or 4 of those this quarter too. It's a real wasted kick. If you're going to kick that one, it needs to be 15 metres out in front. That's just a 3 or 4 rush behinds where they could have got, you know, a nice kick inside 50, hitting a target, or even at worst, kick it up to Jonathan Brown 15 metres out from goal.
I must admit, in the Lions game last week against Adelaide Crows, that was one of the real failings of the Adelaide Crows. They were continually blazing away and dropping to that 0 to 5 metres out, which is really, for any sort of decent defender, is an easy spoil. Just get it across and kill the contest. So, yeah, the pulled kick, as Clark did just before half-time, pull the kick and make it a little bit shorter to a dangerous position.
Seabee. Nice mark.
I'm still getting over you just dusting off the smell cow from about 25 years ago.
Seabee kicks the Kangaroo brand long. Jude Bolton gives it up. Mattner might go for goal here. Gives it to Kennedy from 48 metres across the face. Lewis Roberts-Thompson. A second grab might have been across the line. It's a behind.
LRT's just
He added the one-hander to his repertoire as well.
Penciled himself in for near a handful.
3/4 time at the Gabbator, but it's the Brisbane Lions who are being slaughtered. Sydney 15-9, 99 by 61 points over the Lions. 5-8, 38. Induction.
Who are we going with then?
Might go Hurd, Buckley, Voss.
Yeah, I might throw Archer in as well. He does a lot of community work, Arch.
Oh, does that count, does it?
Apparently.
I think he'll get in before that kicks in as well.
I might still get in there. High inside doesn't count that much. Good mark, Jonathan Brown.
Yeah, good use of the body in that kick. Actually, this is what Jonathan Brown does very well. When he's under the ball, protects the drop zone extremely well, pushes back into his direct opponent. And I think that was Richards on that occasion. And if you can protect that drop zone, then it's very hard to push a guy of the size of Jonathan Brown off the ball and just dropped into the breadbasket.
We talked about where he stands all time as one of the great centre-half forwards, Jonathan Brown. With that goal, he enters the top 50 goal kickers of all time, AFL and VFL. It's been an outstanding career, Jonathan Brown. 484 goals now.
And as with this clearance from Rich, just get the ball in quickly. That's all a forward can ask for. And he just used that big, powerful body to protect it. And he had a bit of a hold on Ted Richards, but that goes on, and that's a very good mark. And Jonathan Brown, like at the start of the third quarter, the Brisbane Lions have kicked the first goal. And once again, they can edge that little bit closer.
Last week was the first time the Lions, for 6 years, had won a game with Jonathan Brown in the team with him not kicking a goal. So he hasn't been an outstanding goal-kicking form since coming back.
I think the structures are just different. Even, I mean, what the Swans would have been disappointed. Here we go forward. Another clearance out of the centre bounce.
And Brown there again. Off some hands. Handling. Gives it up. They've got some momentum back. Sheldon short, missed the target. Bird.
What we saw there, Al, which we didn't see in the first one, is if Teddy's going to be wrestling with Jonathan Brown, he needs someone coming over the top. Nick Smith did it then. Grundy didn't do it in that first one.
Spot on. We talked about the predictability, which is once again good because it's predictable to go to the Lions, so it's good for them. But as a Swans defensive unit, you must know it's going to go in that direction. Be ready to drop off your man and spoil.
And let someone else beat you. If it goes to ground and Retzlaff picks it up and snaps a goal, you'd rather that than Jonathan Brown kicking 3 or 4 in the last quarter.
Yeah, well, that's where it is important as well. If you leave your man, you must impact the contest, and that is a big fist to get it out of the area and over the line, or take the mark yourself.
Smith back to Johnson. Across the face. Thumped away from Shaw. Close to the line and taken out by Jesse O'Brien.
Good effort by O'Brien. It's one of the few times that Brisbane have really stopped Sydney from being able to switch the ball at all. They've been able to do that the whole night and work the ball pretty much down the field. So they close that outlet down on that occasion.
Seavey front spot. Leuenberger reaches over the top. O'Keefe, Jude Bolton with a fumble from Shaw. Back to Jude Bolton, working in tight again. Hanbury spears that wide off some hands. Adcock gets there. Takes on Reid. Handball half smothered. O'Keefe comes in, tried to get a kick away. Missed his boot completely. Leuenberger, Simon Black. Handball half smothered. McGrath, untidy passage this. Won't put this bit in the time capsule. We'll get a ball up.
Can we have a look at Ryan O'Keefe's fresh area again there?
Been a couple of those tonight.
We see in the foreground Adam Goods and Daniel Merritt. Mostly it's been Joel Patfull has been on. There's Adcock just dropping back off the pack again. But Goods has been relatively quiet after the first term. Only had the 13 disposals and the 1 goal.
Leuenberger to half forward. Race on. Teddy Richards and Jonathan Brown. Richards wins it. And wins it again towards the line.
Wait for
it. Content to see it out.
Just no one likes to see this. He gets a Falcon as well too, and an airy. That's not great for the highlight reel. The Falcon followed by the fresh airy, is it?
They'd love you commentating on their games, the Swannies boys. He's got a red snout as well from the one in the beak.
No one likes to see this and ask for the replay.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's worthwhile.
Well, you demanded to the director in the truck, get that on. I need it now.
Goods. Thought about thumping it long. Jetta put the Jets on, got himself some space, runs onto it, turns one way, has a bounce, runs the other, thumps it towards goal. It's high, top of the square, off the hand of Reid. And that's almost deliberate as well. Just to tap out Ash McGrath.
Yeah,
he looks around sheepishly.
He'd be a little stiff to get done on that one.
Not tonight.
Bit of a shimmy from Lewis Jetta there.
Yeah, it's nice. Oh, that was a controversial one as well.
That's one thing that hasn't changed over the last 4 or 5 years. The whistle blows and no one's got any idea whatsoever which way. And as a coach, I mean, there's arms wrapped around both. Where was that one, Rosie?
Well, it's a reasonable indication that the umpire may have made a mistake if no one knows who the free kick goes to.
But that's when both players are wrestling, just let it go. I mean, because as in the coach's box, that must kill you 20 metres out from goal.
Oh, particularly in that area, you know. I mean, if it's a close game, but regardless, it doesn't really matter. Now, there's a goal from a 50-50 free kick. And you're right, Al. I don't know how you actually pick them out because Both players. I mean, you could probably pick a free kick to Leuenberger. There's CB round, double hand, both double hand.
I actually can't see what he's called that one for.
Yeah, I think he called the wrap around with the hands here. But as I said, both players pretty much had their hands wrapped around. So
no, not one you'd like in the coach's box. I'm sure he'd be very disappointed, Fossey.
He becomes their 12th different goal kicker, Mark Seaby. 61 points the margin. Ball up. Take away from Adcock. Bounces it in the Jonathan Brown direction. Taps it to his own advantage, but again, had a couple on him. And
called the throw.
Okay, so it'll be a Sydney free kick, not play onto advantage. Ted Richards. Been an outstanding game again from Ted Richards. Last week, he and Grundy played all 100 minutes of the game for the Sydney Swans. They often go the whole game without getting a rest. Everett, the sub off. And fresh legs got him up there. Shorts it. McGlynn. Shaw. Dances through Adcock. Sits it up for Adam Goods to go. He can't mark. Off some hands, O'Keefe. Toward goal and slightly offline. Another behind.
I just think they haven't got the McGlynn. Here we go. Not a bad way to get your first possession of the game. Take a nice hang, put your foot in the back. I just don't think they've got the McGlynn thing right. The Lions, look, he hasn't had a huge possession game, but he's started a lot of attacks from off half back when they've let him go, and he's also kicked goals when he's pushed forward.
Nice hands, Leuenberger. Runs the midfield, gives to Redden. Jonathan Brown in a good spot. Can't mark. Retzlaff, he's already got two. This needs to bounce for him. It doesn't.
Well, he's 6'5", but some good crumbing work. Once again, knew where the ball was going to go and got to the front of Jonathan Brown. Good spoil to the front, but that can work for the Lions if you've got numbers there. So just pulled it a little far. There's McGlynn, they've spoken about. A really good inclusion over the last 18 months at the Sydney Swans, playing some very good football.
Yeah, as good as his first season was last year, he's on track to have a better season. His numbers are better. Retzlaff runs into a brick wall in Mattner, who stripped him of it. Hanbury back. McGlynn. Working it between them. McVeigh, Grundy, Kennelly, all getting a piece. Jetta, slippery handball. Back to Kennelly, back to McVeigh. It's a possession fest. And they have worked that beautifully to LRT at half forward. Back to McVeigh, who can launch. Goods. And it bounced on the back of Merritt's head. Great spoil. He's up over 100 spoils now.
Do you count that one?
Well, you've got to. He's the spoil leader in the AFL this year. He's on record pace.
Actually, Adam Goods made a meal of that one.
Count that.
Did you spoil with the back of your head?
Yeah. Well, if it works, it works. But
well, that would have been a goal otherwise if he didn't touch it.
You're right.
All right, okay, Dewano. But, yeah, Adam Goods had Daniel Merritt in the right position just to ease him under the ball and take a very good mark. It was a great kick to Goods' advantage. He just lost the feel of Big Rog, and he got behind him and headed it through for a point.
I'm not sure they'll be teaching that technique, though, will they?
No, it's page 108 of the skill manual.
Jude Bolt
Won't be in the forward half anytime soon.
Pierce Handley worried out of it. That looked a little high on Polkinghorne.
Yeah, he's been good, Lynchy, tonight, I reckon, Pierce Handley.
Yeah, he's really developed. I mean, we touched on him before half-time, but he has come a long way in the last 6 months.
Clark runs the wing, pumps one in the Kennelly direction. Off some hands, Banfield tried to crash his way through, and Kennelly makes it somebody else's problem. Bangs it out. Oh, straight through the hands of Collier. That was ugly. Hanbury runs onto it. He's got Everett running. Fresh man on. Puts it in front and lets him run into it. Spectacular.
Yeah, beautiful kick that by Hanbury. Geez, he summed that up well.
The vision as well.
He played on and played on into trouble.
He didn't.
Trying to be unselfish. And Stiller.
He's unselfish, but 30 metres out from goal.
Should have done the Brent Harvey.
Oh, well, just go back. You don't even look towards goals. Turn your back on him and have a kick.
Off some hands, Jude Bolton back. Seaby. Jude. Kennedy couldn't pick it. Gets it back though. Pokes it half forward, almost Reed. McGlynn. And did he win a free for too high? You bet he did. Maybe just beyond his range.
Now this is the kick you've been speaking about, Roosie. No point dropping it on the goal line. Now, you'd probably, if you kick the ball 40 metres so that Goods can run into it.
He does.
That's exactly the kick you need to do.
To the hot spot. Goods runs onto it. And on cue, going to kick the goal to prove your point.
Get in there.
It's a clinic.
I'm on the wrong side of the ground.
That's why we pay you the big bucks.
If you want to see, and that's a good piece of play, but if you want to see a good piece of commentary, that's as good as it gets in the commentary box. Alistair Lynch calls it on the way in, which is unbelievable. The three-quarter kick to the top of the goal square. Goods, as you called it, Alistair, coming, flying onto the football. That's as good a piece of commentary as you will see.
Oh, I can't say any more, Roosie. You probably summed it up very well there. And actually, if we
Who did kick that goal anyway?
Actually, if we focus on the play, actually it was a very good goal from Adam Goods around the corner. We said he'd been reasonably quiet after the first quarter. He had a goal early, and that's a very nice second goal.
Jude Bolton caught, tried to break free. Power does get it free, but it's a throw. Sydney ball.
In all seriousness, though, that's what we talked about before. Man, that's what Brisbane weren't doing in the third quarter. McGlynn, a nice three-quarter kick into the dangerous area. No defender wants to see that. It gives the Swans a chance to kick a goal rather than a rush point.
O'Keefe. Jetta. And even Jetta not playing on at the moment. Shorts it out wide.
Well, they've worked that well. They're patient. They're not trying to rush the ball and play on it at all times and just trying to pick off targets 30 metres forward, but they missed that one.
Redden. Banfield can go. He's got a one-on-one ahead. It's Sheldon, doesn't want to go to it, and again runs himself into trouble. It hasn't been his day. It sort of hasn't been his year. Matner wide, and they can reload Kennedy.
They just haven't played controlled football at all, though, Brisbane, have they? I mean, that's been the real difference. Obviously, effort and all those sort of things early, but if you look at the way the game state, the Swans have controlled the game beautifully throughout the whole night. Even when Brisbane have had some ascendancy, they've wanted to go up, tempo, up, tempo, up, tempo, up, tempo.
So the last 30 seconds was indicative of the whole game. Patience from the Sydney Swans. They turned the ball over, but just the ball to gate with the Lions.
Adam Goods, that was spectacular until it didn't bounce back to him. He lays a tackle.
I tell you, there must be something wrong with the ball, although Pickers, it must be the ground, because we've seen 2 or 3 times tonight where the bounce of the balls really cost the players significantly.
From the ball up. Simon Black's ball.
No, it's gone the other way, I think.
Is it?
Oh, no, sorry. Yep. Simon Black, 17 for the game.
Handling. 17 for him as well. As I mentioned, some big numbers 2 of the last 3 weeks, the biggest numbers of his career. This is Josh Green. He's about to play in his first loss of his career. It's been 2 games for 2 wins so far for him. Back to Black. Stops, tried to sneak it through some traffic. And now the Swans on the rebound. Hanbury, McVeigh. It's got Adam Goods. Puts it in front of Goods. Everett can run onto it as well. And tapped out. That won't be deliberate. It's going through the record books. Unfortunately, especially for you two guys, the Brisbane Lions don't recognise Fitzroy history. So when you look at the Brisbane Lions games record holders, there's no Paul Roos, there's no Alistair Lynch, there's no Kevin Murray, which, and they should include Fitzroy history in their history, but unfortunately the Lions and the AFL don't.
Yeah, well, I think it's more the AFL, to be fair to the Lions. I think the Lions try to recognise it internally, but on the AFL official records, no, my Fitzroy games aren't recorded as part of the records.
Which is a little sad, because most people hope to believe that it was a merger of clubs. Is this one still alive? Touch play on was the call. Rich, a few players over it, and it's not coming up. So when you look at the all-time record loss for the Brisbane Lions against Sydney, the Brisbane Lions say it's 84 points, which is in threat, but the real record is bigger than that. It's 126 points when Sydney Swans had that win over Fitzroy. So they won't beat 126 points, but they could beat what the Brisbane Lions say was the record loss, 84 points back in 2005.
What year was that one? The Fitzroy one, Dwayno, just while you're looking here.
1995 at the Western Oval.
I was playing for the Swans then. Tony Lockett kicked. What did he kick? 16 that day, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
I remember that game.
McGlynn. Off hands. Goods. Traps it. He's going to kick another one. He gives it off. Shouldn't have. He goes back, gets it, does give it off, and Bird can't kick the goal. Was that the afternoon when the crowd moved from one end to the other end after each quarter?
I remember that.
Follow Lockett.
They walked from one end of the ground to the other
Yeah.
at the Western Oval. It was incredible to see. I think he kicked. He was on streak to kick 16 or 17 straight or what have you.
Collier pumps it outside 50. That's a great leap, and mark to Clark.
That's a great grab, and when he attacks the pack, and that's what you want to see if a big forward or ruckman attack the contest and put your knee in the back of the opponent and take those big grabs.
Jude Bolton tracks it down. They're not done with yet. McGlynn just outside 50. Redden stripped him of it. Bounces it to Green. Hanbury stands under this. Almost a spectacular grab. Shaw gives it up. O'Keefe inside 50 again. Rolling ball. Merritt traps it. I'm not sure what you'd call that, but it's ineffective.
That's called a bad kick.
It's a very bad kick. He actually did well to leave his direct opponent in Adam Goods to take off, but just needed to be a bit more controlled to get it 50 metres up the line, not over it.
I tell you, Jude Bolton, we haven't mentioned either, Lynchy. He's up to 30 possessions. I mean, his form over the last 2 or 3 years has been outstanding.
18 of those contested too, Rizzy.
Yeah, no, he's been terrific.
Gets a touch there on cue, as you were talking about him. That mark was paid. Adcock, Black, Sheldon, and he misses the target. That won't please.
There's Mitch Clark's big grab on the wing, and he's a big man and just throws himself at the contest, and that's when he's at his best, when he's up on his toes, bouncy around the ground and jumping in the contest like that.
Kennedy peels his way through. Bird, Seaby, Smith, handball smothered. O'Brien missed his target. Now Chesky, O'Keefe, touch was a call. Everett, meeting the sandwich. Patfull, caught by the Dax, got it up. Adcock, bumped off it. And they are relentless, the Swans. Ted Richards wide. Player down behind, play Adam Goods. In the meantime, McVeigh's ball.
Swans pressured, Dwayne. You're right. They're relentless. I mean, the game's all over now. 69 points, and we just saw 3 or 4 tackles in the middle of the ground.
And they keep getting numbers across to the contest, so they're outnumbering Brisbane at each contest. And Brisbane this week, different to last week, they're actually trailing their opponents to the contest. So disappointing from that aspect. But yeah, you've got to commend the Sydney Swans and this man for how well they've played and attacked every contest with an enormous amount of vigour.
This will test him, wouldn't it, this distance? Will this be one of those ones that Ruzi?
Kick this on the line.
Off hands. And Everett slung after he got rid of it. That's going to be a free.
Nope. Adam Goods is down again and just got back to his feet.
So back into the team this week, Andreas Everett. Missed last week's win. Comes on as the sub and can't add his name to this massive list of goal kickers.
And here's the swinging tackle, and that's what has been outlawed in recent times.
Yeah. Look, it's been a terrific effort by the Swans tonight. You know, we came up here expecting a really close game, but full credit to the Swans. They've just demolished the Brisbane Lions. They've had some terrific players with Jude Bolton, Joey Kennedy, Marty Matner. I mean, you can go down the whole list. It's been a comprehensive victory, and they've played a really good style of footy tonight.
Jetta runs onto it from 50. Can't bring it back enough. Only a behind. These two teams, by the way, meet again in round 24 at the SCG. So presuming the Swans are on track to play finals, I'd like to think that they could head into the finals with a big victory again over the Lions after this kind of performance.
Well, certainly their recent form would suggest they should be playing finals. They've been very good and continue just to draft wins out of tight contests, but this one they've just been too good for the Lions.
Yeah, it's been outstanding. Pierce Hanley tries to shrug that tackle from Goods, unsuccessful. Merritt, unsuccessful. Little toe poke. Jude Bolton caught, got it up. Bird, back, Jetta. The step, the outside of the foot kick, touch play on. Reid off his hands. Goods shuffles it out. Jude again, barreled out of it. Still alive. Rich pumps it out of the area. Clark beaten for it by Johnson, who's almost in line for a NAB Rising Star nomination soon. He's been a good player, even though he's been a silent winner. Alex Johnson. Banfield takes off. Hunted down by Johnson, goes long, and Richard should get back. He doesn't! All the way home! Banfield, a rare highlight.
That's well done from Todd Banfield, and that's when he was at his best last year. That's part of what we used to see week in, week out, his ability to get possession from his defensive pressures. His defensive tackling has always been good, but his speed to put space between him and his direct opponent. Now, his finishing skills haven't always been good, but that's what you want from a small, quick forward. Attack the 50-metre arc and kick truly, and with the dew on the ground, just skip through beautifully.
Yeah, I guess that's what he's there for, isn't he? I mean,
he is. Yeah.
He's just inconsistent, isn't he? Which is not unusual for those type of players, because it is a hard position to play. Yeah. Just that pure half-forward role.
This year, he hasn't capitalised on his opportunities when having those shots at goal, and his defensive pressures have dropped off a little. But over the last few weeks, we've just seen a few more signs of Todd Banfield back to his best very early in his career. But he has got some genuine speed, and he looks dangerous around goals when he gets that chance.
Alex Johnson, the first goal of his career tonight. Short, Seedy.
Tell you another player who's had a terrific night again tonight has been Reece Shaw. He's done a real number on Luke Power after he did a terrific job last week against North Melbourne on Harvey. So he seems to be really enjoying this role.
He's got it on cue for you too, Pickers, whilst you're...
Just reading the play there, Dwayne.
Yeah, beautiful work, Pickers. Looks like he started to cramp up a little bit too. But he's been another one of these players that come from a different club, Rosie, and really thrived at the SCG with the Sydney Swans.
Yeah, look, he's had a really good year this year. I think his first year he came up, he was second and third in our best and first. Dropped off a touch last year, but this year he's been very consistent again. He does like those challenging roles on those outside, real running plays. Did a great job on Harvey, Pick, as you mentioned. And Powers had 11 possessions tonight. He's done a good job again.
O'Keefe being pushed into the gutter.
He called for the pass there.
And not quite, McVeigh. And that's a throw, surely.
Absolutely.
It was a handoff. Banfield shrugs a tackle, uses some toe, heads wide. Retzlaff wins a free. 65 points the margin. 3 minutes from full time. Retzlaff had a two-goal night.
Hasn't got a lot of confidence to go long because Swans once again got back in numbers.
Brown with the hands in the air this time. And almost it is a turnover. Hurd. Disappointing. Next week, Brisbane Lions have Carlton at Etihad Stadium, and the Sydney Swans have Richmond at the SCG. So another very winnable game for the Swans, who are on the charge up the ladder. An emphatic victory coming their way tonight. Hanbury short. McGlynn.
It's such a professional team, Sydney, aren't they? They very rarely lose to teams that they're better than, if you know what I'm saying. So around that mark that they play, so the Richmonds of the world and these teams that think they're a chance, they very rarely lose to them.
Now, they've always, over the last decade, seemed like they're a very well-drilled team. Their structures are always in place early, and their clearance work, any sort of stoppage situation, they seem to be very well structured up.
Cord to go. It'll be a win to John Longmire in the first ever battle between these two coaches, and Redden takes the mark. It continues to be an outstanding start to John Longmire's coaching career. There's been a lot of talk about the start to Chris Scott's coaching career, and fair enough, the Cats remain undefeated, and it's been a record-breaking start. But John Longmire has been magnificent at the helm, replacing our man Paul Roos.
I'll tell you what, he would be happy about, having a nice lazy last quarter too. Yeah. Been 10 up. They've had some cliffhangers this year, the Swannies.
Yeah.
Last week was would have been a very nerve-wracking game. I think the forward 50 was full of North Melbourne ball inside their forward 50, so they were lucky to get away with that one in the end.
Adam Goods about to go. Gets up. Merritt with the spoil. Knocked it down. Patfull. Strong tackle.
I think the other thing with the Swans is they've got some young players playing as well. So it's been a really good effort from John just to rejuvenate the team with some young players coming in. You know, Johnson's been terrific. Lewis Johnson came in last week. Bring back Trent Dennis-Lane tonight. Hanbury's still a young player as well. So Sam Reed's going to be a star. He's a young player. So, you know, look, they've got a really good balance between youth and experience at the moment.
Matner. Have they got one last goal left in them? Maybe not. Heads wide. Ty Kennelly. Youth and experience. 2 teenagers in this 22 for the Swans and 2 players with 250 games plus. Andreas Everett, another player from another club. Sydney Swans are hoping to fashion into maybe a premiership player. Sits it up high. Through the hands of Reed. He's not happy with himself. O'Brien kicks smothered. Black. Little fumble. Makes it Collier's problem. Slips it up to Redden. O'Brien pops it towards the wing. Green hunts it down. Down to 20 seconds. It's going to be a 10-goal victory for the Sydney Swans away from home at a ground that has traditionally been very difficult to win at. But the Swans have got a good record here, and that good record continues. Umpire says it was juggled out. No, just confirmation that it wasn't. Shorts it back to Ted Richards. So after 2 wins in a row for the Brisbane Lions, the Swans have put the Lions back in their cage. They dominated from the outset, the Sydney Swans. Led by 37 points at quarter time with a 6-goal-to-1 opening term. They had a 78-point lead late in the second quarter, and in the end ran out convincing winners by 10 goals plus. 65 points the final margin. 17-14, 116 with the Lions 7-9-51, and the Sydney Swans are a top 4 threat.
Well, they are. They've pushed up there again, and they came up here. It was a big challenge to come up against the Brisbane Lions who'd won the last 2 weeks, Ruzi, and they've always performed well at the Gabba. I think they came in slight underdogs into this game, even though they're well up on the Lions, but they'd be very happy with this result.
Yeah, look, some big numbers. Bolton 35, O'Keefe 27. Their leaders playing really well. Bird 26, Kennedy 25. So when any team gets that much of the football, 408 possessions to 273. So, yeah, it was a smashing. It was pretty much all over early in the game. So clearances, they just smashed them. I think it was 12-1 in the first quarter, Lynchy. So, look, Brisbane fought back a little bit, but an absolutely outstanding effort from the Swans.